Order the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners regular session meeting. This is November the 15th, 2022. We have a very full house tonight and a very full agenda. So bear with us. We have lots of things to get through. Lots of it that's pretty super exciting too. Fun to talk about. But before we get started, I would like us, if Commissioner Hassel, if you will lead us in our invocation, please.
Sure. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for the opportunity we have to come together as a board and govern on the local level. Father, we pray that as we conduct this meeting, that we make decisions that honor you and that will do the most good for the most people in our county. Lord, we pray for your guidance and your leadership. Lord, as we navigate through this all, we thank you for this week and this month that we have been able to recognize our veterans, Father, and we're so thankful for the sacrifice that many give to serve our nation. Father, they just give such an awesome price, and we're so grateful for that. We pray that you'd be here, and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And if you're able, please stand. Have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now that sounds great when the room is full, does that not? Oh my gosh, that is awesome. So before we move to approve the agenda, I do have to add an amendment to the agenda, so I will need someone to make a motion to approve it. But it is adding a special recognition that will be led by Senator Steve Jarvis. So can I have a motion that we amend the agenda to include that?
I make a motion to amend the agenda.
So Commissioner Hassel, I do need a second. Second, Commissioner Little, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. So we will amend our agenda, and that will include a special recognition presentation by Senator Steve Jarvis under our presentation section. So now we can approve our agenda as it is currently now written. So I do need a motion to approve our full agenda.
I make a motion that we approve our full agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. A second.
A second.
Commissioner Robinson, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so our agenda is set for this evening. So with that said, we're going to start with Senator Jarvis. So I'm going to let you come forward, and the floor is yours. You know what you're dealing with tonight. And we're excited to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. And if I can just briefly have a personal privilege, a moment of personal privilege, I just want to say this is probably the last official meeting that I will be in Montgomery County. And I just want to let everybody know I have solely enjoyed serving you and will continue to serve you through the end of the year. But have met a lot of good friends. I feel like that'll be lifelong friends, and really love the Montgomery County. And y'all have got a lot of good things going on, and look forward to hearing a lot of things coming forward in the future. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, we're here tonight to honor and recognize a very humble citizen of our local community. As a veteran of the Vietnam conflict, where he served as sergeant in the Army, Mr. Fuller has served our county with distinction, earning a Bronze Star. He continues to serve even today as he supports the local VFW and the needs of the veterans in our community. Mr. Fuller is always present at all of the events honoring veterans at the college or anywhere else in the community. He always arranges honor guards, puts out flags in remembrance of veterans, and participates in local celebrations honoring veterans. Lastly, he led the effort to name the Warner Bridge in Troy for the Medal of Honor winner, Henry Fred Warner. I think today it's time that we honor Mr. Russell Fuller. Mr. Fuller has spent a lifetime dedicated to being passionate about and consistently improving his general welfare of the community here in Montgomery County. After speaking to a few of his friends and family, I discovered that a few years ago, maybe during school years, he also enjoyed escorting Miss Montgomery County around in a Buick convertible. Now, I asked her if he ever took off and flipped her off the back or almost flipped her off. I could not get that confirmed, and to my dismay, I was looking for something to have a little bit of fun with Mr. Fuller. But whenever I asked, they said no. He was always a perfect gentleman, and that throughout school, anywhere you would see him, he would be surrounded by 3 of his best friends, and I think that carried through a number of years. It's my sincere pleasure to ask Mr. Russell Fuller to come forward to receive the Order of the Longleaf Pine, the highest volunteer award in the state of North Carolina. It's my honor to present him into a membership, into a society that includes people like the Reverend Billy Graham, Michael Jordan, Andy Griffith, and now it includes Russell Fuller. There's one more thing that comes with being a member of the Order of the Longleaf Pine. It entitles him anywhere in the free world to give a toast. Here's to the land of the longleaf pine, where the summer land, where the sun doth shine, where the weak grow strong and the strong grow great. Here's down home to the old North State. Thank you so much. Let's give Mr. Fuller a round of applause, not only for receiving the award, but for all that he has done for Montgomery County.
Now, if any of his family wants to gather photos or get in photos with him, please take a few minutes. We got plenty of time for y'all to come and do that. And then I would like each of us to, we'll go down, and once the family gets pictures, and we'll shake Mr. Fuller's hand. And
And I don't know if the commissioners...
we are going to come down, but before we do, I would like, while Mr. Fuller's standing up front, everybody that's in this room that is a veteran, that is here to represent or support or honor Mr. Fuller, would you at least stand so we can see the veterans that are in this room that came because this general, I see a number, or police officers or whomever are here that came. I know a lot of people came to show.
Have them come up around here. and just
Yeah,
get a
if
picture.
all of you guys would come up and surround Mr. Fuller, they're gonna take a photo, so they have that. So any of the veterans or law enforcement that's here to honor Mr. Fuller this evening. Ray Dawson, y'all come on up. Eric, that's right, y'all come on, get in this photo.
Come on up.
And then us commissioners will go down there. But it is great to see the number of people that came out in recognition for him.
The level of support, I
The
just don't
level
think
of
there's a man that is more welcome and deserving.
We need a wide lens. That's a big group. All right, thank y'all. Guys, can we go down? And you'll come over
Thank you,
here.
thank you, thank you.
I done hugged you once, but I'll do it again.
I get another hug, yeah. I get another hug.
Get all the commissioners, yeah.
We are, we're
Come
gonna
right
get
on.
all around you. Rose, come on, squeeze on in here.
Thank you.
You good? Let me go ahead and sit this over here for you, or you got it? Hand it to your dog?
Here,
You want other people? Anybody else?
You're welcome.
Anybody else that wants your photo, you do it.
The only person I knew that was in the order wrongly filed was Bob Jordan.
Yeah, Bob.
And that's the last person I can
That
remember
was-
in my,
yeah,
in my lifetime. I'm sure there might have been more.
Yeah, but that,
If I can, or I cannot, I'd like to thank everyone for being here and who had anything to do with this. Thank the commissioners for allowing us to do this tonight. I'd like to thank Police Chief James Atkins and all of his officers for what they did for me. And I mean, each one of them did while I've been there, even coming to Greensburg to see me. Appreciate that very much. And of course, then leave it to the end. I'd like to thank the governor for looking at my paperwork and was willing to sign and give me this. And then Senator Jarvis, I know he had 100% seemed like me to do with this. Thank you, sir, very much. I really appreciate everything you did and work with me, and I've enjoyed it. It's a pleasure knowing you. And even though you're going to leave here, you're still our friend and your wife, Wendy. Yeah. Thank you so very much. Again, thank everybody. Appreciate all the veterans. We're all one. We're in the Army, Air Force, Marines, or whatever. We're still one. Say the police and the Highway Patrol and everybody. Thank you all so very much. I know a lot of you don't know what all I've been through. It's just, thank the Lord, I'm able to be here tonight.
Amen.
So, I'm going to have to leave because things are not feeling that well with me. I'm looking forward to some bigger problems because of what happened to me. By me being stupid, I'll just go ahead and say that.
We'll see you soon, Russell. All right, Mr. Manager, I do believe we have yet another presentation. As Russell gets out of the room and all those, you can get ready and you ready?
Yes.
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have one additional honor tonight, and this is in the form of a resolution of commendation and appreciation to Sheriff Christopher Watkins for his service to Montgomery County through the Sheriff's Department. And this resolution would also award him his service sidearm and badge. Sheriff Watkins is under the weather and unable to be here tonight, but we will ensure that he gets a copy of this resolution, which will be recorded in the minutes of the County of Montgomery for all time to recognize his service. As we know, Sheriff Watkins is retiring again. This will be his second retirement in law enforcement. And in the introductory statements of the resolution here, it talks about Sheriff Watkins being a repository of knowledge and wisdom. He was truly that. In addition to being an elected sheriff, he was an elected town commissioner for the town of Troy. And speaking personally, he was a town commissioner as I got my start in local government. So Sheriff Watkins was indeed a friendly ear and great knowledge that came from that listening ear. And we will miss Sheriff Watkins. Sheriff-elect Herron is not here, but wish that I pass along his appreciation to Sheriff Watkins as well. But we will ensure he gets this resolution, and if I could get a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Need a second?
Second.
Second. Commissioner Hassel, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, none opposed. Thank you, Frankie.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda is we have our consent agenda, and when you have an opportunity, Frankie, to pull that up and at least read through the items that are on our consent agenda this evening.
Sure. We have the approval of the minutes for our prior two meetings on October 13th and October 18th. We have a resolution of technical correction to the resolution authorizing the sale and upset bid process for the West Montgomery High School properties. We have the approval of the required sheriff's bond in the amount of $10,000 per General Statute 162.8, appointment of Susan Miller to the Tourism Development Authority, and the Register of Deeds report.
Thank you. So I do need a motion that we approve of the items on our consent agenda. If there is no conversation, anything around those, if we can have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion that we approve the
Commissioner
consent
Rob.
agenda.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson, motion. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Hassel, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the consent agenda is approved. So as we move forward, it's time for our public forum. This is not to do with the public hearing. That is a little bit later with our zoning request, that public hearing. This would only be other public comment. Mr. Annis, we do have a name up here that has signed up to speak, so if you could give the guidelines for that, I would appreciate it, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing members of the public to comment on county business or items on the Board of Commissioners' agenda. This period shall not serve as a forum for debate with the Board of Commissioners. Remarks shall be addressed directly to the board and not to staff, the audience, or the media. The chairman will open the public comment period. Any person who has signed up to speak shall approach the podium and announce his or her name and physical address prior to making comments. Any citizen desiring to comment on a matter of public interest within the authority of the Board of Commissioners to legislate in an open forum shall be allotted 3 minutes. Citizens may yield their time on a specific topic by utilizing no more than 2 citizens' time slots. This will allow up to, but no more than 9 minutes. The county manager shall notify the chairman upon the expiration of the allotted time.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. So we do have one person, Mr. Pope. Harold Pope, you are signed up this evening. Step on up. You will state your name and your address.
All right. Harold Pope, 1199 Highway 24, East in Biscoe,
Perfect.
North Carolina.
Thank you, sir.
Well, last month I couldn't be here. I was out of town. And I wanted to talk to y'all just a few minutes. And if I use my 3, my wife has 3 more. So I'll catch them in a minute. But what I wanted to bring to your attention, over the last few months, we have brought a lot of information to this board and to the county manager. And we've asked a lot of intelligent questions, and we haven't gotten any answers, okay? Now, I just want to tell you a short story. When we were building our house, we thought, Jeffrey bought the land, he thought he could put another driveway in, and the attorney that did the deed search didn't search enough because we found out we couldn't. So, but he put a driveway in, and the state come by and said the driveway's got to be moved. And immediately, they went downtown, had my building permit pulled that my contractor couldn't do any more work until that was fixed, until it was straightened out, okay? Now, what I'm saying is this: what's good for the goose is good for the gander, okay? I have given a lot of information to you folks. Nobody has got back with me. Nobody has done anything, okay? I just want you to hear this plain, because I'm talking to all of you. What I have learned, and a lot of other people have learned, is that meetings before meetings are illegal, okay? And what else we've learned is that we can't trust y'all. Bottom line, we can't trust y'all. There's been too much information floating around, and nobody has come back and said to me, but they didn't have a problem pulling my permit, did they? Y'all can smile. It's all right. It's all right. But I just wanted to bring this to your attention. And I think that y'all don't have to shake your head. You don't have to give me yes or no. But I'm giving you information, more information. I'd like to hear from somebody. The night that I asked about all this, I asked questions, and I still haven't gotten any answers. Amen. I won't make this a pulpit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pope. Frankie, I would address, I know that the last time they spoke, there was a list of questions that was compiled, and I know you responded to those, and those were in the newspaper.
Just a minute.
I'm just asking about that.
That wasn't my questions. Jeffrey had questions. My questions I asked standing right here.
Then could you put those in written communication so we know what it is specific and send them to the county manager? That would be
Okay.
awesome.
Or we together could go back and watch that meeting, because it's all on it. But I'll get
Yeah,
it.
if you would, if there's specific things you would like to know, absolutely. If you'll submit them to the county manager,
Okay.
we can get that information to you.
That sounds wonderful.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Pope. All right, so that is the only person we have signed up tonight, so we are closing public comment section. And we will move into, Frankie, we have multiple public hearings tonight. It looks like we have 2 on our agenda.
Yes.
The first will be concerning rezoning -04-2022 Philo Solar LLC. So Mike, I believe you will take the lead on this, please, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Go ahead and start with PowerPoint too. Looks like it's already started. All right. This is a request from Philo Solar LLC. The specific requested location is the rezoning, or specific request and location is the rezoning of 69.74 acres of property located between Highway 24 and Chicken Farm Road, Bisco. Further defined as parcel 755800162049 is depicted on book 827, page 639, registered with the Montgomery County Register of Deeds, from residential 1 zoning to residential 2. Up next is rezoning of 124.66 acres of property located between NC Highway 2427 East, Chicken Farm Road, Bisco, further defined as parcel 755800563560 as depicted on book 468, page 803, registered with the Montgomery County Register of Deeds, from residential 1 zoning to residential 2. And lastly, the rezoning of 193.47 acres of property located on 0 Highway 2427 East Bisco, further defined as parcel 755800255119 is depicted on book 468, page 667, registered with the Montgomery County Register of Deeds, from residential 1 zoning to residential 2. And the history and the current location. This property in its entirety has been zoned as residential 1 since the adoption of countywide zoning in 1999 or 2000. And as you can see up on the screen, those are the parcels that are being requested tonight to have a rezoning request. And up next, the zoning district standards. The current zoning district residential 1 requires a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet for a new lot. Setbacks are 30 feet from the street right of way, 20 feet on the abutting side streets for corner lots, 10 feet from the side property lines, and 20 from the rear property line. The residential 2 district requires the same minimum standards required in the residential 1 district. Primary changes that this lot will experience is the rezoning is granted to residential 2 include the newly permitted uses. And newly permitted uses, you have for the residential 2, all uses permitted in the residential 1 district, double wide mobile homes, multifamily dwellings, accessory mobile homes, permitted uses with standards and conditions, any uses permitted within the standards and conditions within the R1 districts, and special uses are going to be any special uses permitted within the R1 district and conditional photovoltaic facilities. Some of the surrounding zoning and land use, part 1 is going to be parcel 755800162049 to the north of it. You're going to have zoned residential 2 containing 157.89 acres of vacant land. To the south of it, 755800033866, and that's zoned residential 1 commercial containing 73.73 acres of vacant land. To the east of it, you have zoned residential 1 containing 193.47 acres of vacant land. And to the west, you have zoned residential 1 containing 26.41 acres of land. Second parcel is 755800563560. To the north, you have zoned residential 2 containing 98 acres of land. To the south, zoned residential 1 containing 19.6 acres of land. To the east is zoned residential 2 containing 67.57 acres of land. And to the west, there's a few smaller parcels on here. And that one is residential 1 and 755800450490, and that's containing 4 acres of land. The second one, as you see on the screen, is residential 1 containing 2.39 acres of land, and the third one is going to be residential 1 containing 1.04 acres of land. And part 3, so parcel 3, 755800255119. To the north, you have zoned residential 2 containing 125.76 acres of land. To the south, residential 2, 124.46, and U.S. Forest Service. To the east, you have residential 1 containing 17.53 acres of land. And to the west, residential 1 containing 73.73 acres of land. So existing site conditions and land use. For parcel 755800162049 is currently vacant land and is vegetated. Access to the interior of the site was limited by overgrowth. The road frontage of the property was only easily accessible portion. There is a utility easement that runs across the parcel. For parcel 755800563560 is currently vacant land and is vegetated. Access to the interior of the site can be accessed from NC Highway 2427 East. For parcel 755800255119 is currently vacant land and is vegetated. Access to the interior of the site can be accessed from NC Highway 2427 East on both sides. For the watershed and floodplain, the proposed parcels are not, in fact, located in watershed critical area or floodplain. For transportation, these properties can be accessed via NC Highway 2427 East. This is the primary route in the NC DOT state maintained system. Any new driveway on the NC Highway 2427 East will require NC DOT approval. In order to grant for a rezoning to have a favorable outcome, there must be 5 policy guidelines that must be met. I'll go ahead and rattle off the 5 policy guidelines, and then we'll go with the answers that the applicant had, and then the staff comments on those. So A, the proposal will place all property similarly situated in the area in the same category or in appropriate complementary categories. B, there is convincing demonstration that all uses permitted under the proposed district classification would be in the general public interest and not merely in the interest of an individual or a group. C, there is convincing demonstration that all uses permitted under the proposed district classification would be appropriate in the area included in the proposed change. When a new district designation is assigned, any uses permitted in the district is allowable so long as it meets the district requirements and not merely uses where applicants state they intend to make of the property involved. D, there is convincing demonstration that the character of the neighborhood will not be materially or adversely affected by any use permitted in the proposed change. Part E, the proposed change is in accordance with any land use and sound planning principles. And this is going to be a little bit longer, so I apologize. All right, so the applicant for Part A, I'll go back to the previous slide, and it says the proposal will place all property similarly situated in the area in the same category or in appropriate complementary categories. The applicant states the parcels that we are requesting to be rezoned are currently residential 1 zone and we are proposing residential 2. Many of the neighboring parcels are R2 zone. There are numerous adjacent or nearby property uses, including but not limited to a commercial business, industrial buildings with warehouse, truck operations, poultry farms, shopping center, a church, single-family homes, manufactured homes, junkyard, D.H. Griffin, several residential yards with junk salvage stored along the streets, a major Duke Energy substation, the regional transmission line this site will tap into, and a Highway 2427, a heavily traveled 4-lane highway runs through the middle of the site. The differences between R1 and R2 are minor, with lot size and setbacks the same, and only following adding the following permitted uses: double-wide mobile homes, multifamily dwellings, accessory mobile home, custodial relationship. For special uses, conditional zoning districts, photovoltaic facilities, none of the added uses impact the proposed rezoning location along a major thoroughfare with other more intense uses already in place in any significant manner. The rezoning provides more opportunity for economic growth while preserving community character and resources. And staff states for this answer, the proposed residential 2 district classification was intended to specifically promote low and medium density residential neighborhoods. Photovoltaic facilities are permitted under the conditional use or special use of the residential 2 section. The parcels were zoned residential 1 in their entirety between 1999 or 2000. For around 20 years, this area has experienced more growth than Montgomery County desperately needs. This rezoning proposal would have the potential to provide this area with short-term economic gain under the intended use. Part B, there is convincing demonstration that all uses permitted under the proposed district classification would be in the general public interest and not merely in the interest of an individual or group. And the applicant states that the uses permitted in residential 2 district are identical to those allowed in residential 1 district except for 4 additional uses. The additional 4 uses are double-wide mobile homes, multifamily dwellings, accessory mobile home, and photovoltaic facilities all provide options and choice to the general public or in the general public interest as much as the other permitted uses. A photovoltaic facility may be more in the general public's interest than individual permitted uses for the following reasons. 2.1, all major utility companies, including Duke Energy, are adding renewable resources to diversify their portfolios, largely because solar energy provides a cost-competitive energy resource. Once a facility has been constructed, there are very few costs involved and the sun's rays are free. For this reason, solar developers are able to sell electricity to Duke at a fixed rate through a negotiated power purchase agreement. Because this portion of Duke's costs are predictable and flat compared, for example, to gas or coal, customers will experience fewer electric increases over time, and increases will not be triggered as a result of solar. And staff's answer for that, the proposed district classification was intended to specifically promote low and medium density residential neighborhoods. It specifically does not state that residential 2 zoning is intended for photovoltaic facilities, but lists this as a conditional use if it meets specific criteria and policies. Therefore, staff believes that this rezoning request is not in the general public interest, but merely in the interest of an individual group. An applicant states in their response, all major utility companies, including Duke Energy, are adding renewable resources to diversify their portfolios. This also has the potential to provide the landowner and or the landlord of the proposed property a substantial tax benefit. We'll go on to the next slide. Part C, there is convincing demonstration that all uses permitted under the proposed district classification would be appropriate in the area included in the proposed change. When a new district designation is assigned, any uses permitted in the district is allowable so long as it meets the district requirements and not merely uses which applicants state they intend to make of the property involved. And the applicant states the differences between R1 and R2 are minor, with lot size and setbacks the same, and only the following added to the permitted uses: double wide mobile homes, multifamily dwellings, accessory mobile homes, photovoltaic facilities. These added uses are no more or less appropriate than any other currently permitted in R1 or R2 district. The area included in the application is situated adjacent to existing R2 districts, industrial district, non-conforming activities, and located on a major thoroughfare. And staff listed, of course, the permitted uses in residential 2 as follows. And for this question, staff states the applicant is stating that lot size setbacks and referring to permitted dwellings in the response. The applicant also states that photovoltaic facilities are no more or less appropriate than any other uses currently permitted in R1 or R2 district. Yes, they are correct, but what they failed to mention is it appropriate for the adjacent neighboring parcels' long-term economic development and the possibility of hindering any further variety of growth in this location. The question states there is convincing demonstration that all uses permitted under the proposed district classification will be appropriate in the area included in the proposed change. Staff states special uses are classified this for a reason, otherwise they would be listed as permitted uses in the district without a special use request. The applicant's response is geared more towards a special use permit request versus the rezoning of 300 plus acres of land. Part D, there is convincing demonstration that the character of the neighborhood will not be materially and adversely affected by any uses permitted in the change. And the applicant states, as discussed below, none of the R2 district permitted uses developed according to all current requirements would have an impact greater than the character of the existing uses and activities. Therefore, the neighborhood will not be materially or adversely affected by the change. The site is in close proximity of Highway 2427, existing Duke Energy regional transmission lines, and existing Duke Energy substation. Along Coggins Road to the east of the site are county treatment systems and convenience site, a multi-thousand bird poultry operation, It's All Good food truck and seasoning, and the industrial uses AmeriGas propane, Select Frame, Carolina Dairy along Highway 2427, either adjacent to or within very close proximity or Walmart Supercenter, Integrity Recycling, Montgomery Monument Company, Tommy's Barbecue and Catering, Main Street Baptist Church, and Manufactured Home Park, Uwari Gum Company. 3, along Highway 2427 Chicken Farm Road is industrial, is DH Griffin Wrecking Company, which has no fencing or vegetative buffers to shield its operations from passing motorists. Also along Chicken Farm Road, there are several private residences that have scrap yards visible from the road. Some of these uses are illustrated in the photos below. And the staff states for that, the neighboring parcels depicted in these images were parcels and businesses discussed in the previous planning board meetings regarding buffering and fencing. The current surrounding landowners have had to follow the residential 1 zoning regulations for decades, and therefore staff questions the integrity of now changing the use of the surrounding parcels. Ultimately, this could provide the newly zoned residential 2 parcels with a tax advantage and therefore would not be in the interest of the community as a whole. Staff believes that there is a possible demonstration that applicants were utilizing the surrounding existing conditions to receive a favorable outcome for the rezoning application. A few of the listed businesses are also in the township of BOCC zoning. And I have listed for the staff finding. Staff does not believe that the 5 required policy guidelines have been met. The area is already characterized by residential 1 zone along the majority of the corridor between the township of Troy and the township of BOCC. There are a few industrial and commercial parcels that are present in the area, and I did mention a few. It is unknown when those were designated as industrial or commercial. The future land use plan does not appear to encourage the applicant's request in this specific area. This staff finding has been made prior to any presentation or applicant or property owner. It is the responsibility of the property owner or the applicant to submit sufficient evidence to meet the 5 required policy guidelines noted in Article 4, Section 2.1 of the Montgomery County Ordinance. And staff is prepared to answer any questions the board may have. I apologize, I was super long-winded. But
That's okay.
gotta figure out the details.
That's all right, yes. And I know the board has had this information since Thursday, so do you currently have questions that you want to ask right now, or would you rather us listen to others that are here to speak for the public hearing?
I would prefer to hear all the information first and then maybe review any questions at the end.
Perfect. All right, so Mike, is there anything else that you would like to share from a staff standpoint before we move?
I believe that was a lot of information on that, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you folks may
Yeah.
have, but I can't think of anything.
No, it's okay. So once we go through, there may be some
Catch my breath a
questions, but
little
we'll,
bit.
because we have lots of folks, it looks like, to hear from. So next within our public hearing would be statement from the owner. And so, Mr. Matus, I'm going to look to you because we have multiple entities here to speak tonight, I believe. So can you kind of lead us through how we should start with that? That maybe that would be the,
I believe we
Philo.
have representatives of Philo Solar who would be representing the property owners in aggregate.
okay,
Are here and have a presentation
perfect.
and some information to share with us. So I would turn it over to the representatives of Philo Solar.
All right, so Philo Solar representatives, come forward, if you will,
That would
state
be
your
me.
name, so we have that on record, it'd be great.
All right. My name is Dave McLaughlin. Residence is 26 Wagon Road, Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairperson Dawson and Commissioners, for letting us speak today.
Absolutely.
The PowerPoint there.
Should be pulling out.
Okay.
I think she's trying to pull it out at the moment.
Okay. So really, Michael outlined the staff finding pretty well, I think, for you all. You understand what staff feels on the project. You know, we could approach this from going line by line on what we feel about the staff finding, but I actually trust the opinions, you know, the ability of the commissioners to read their ordinance and to read the staff finding and understand it. What we want to talk about, if you allow us the time, is really an opportunity for the county here. And kind of, I want to outline that this process has been convoluted and unclear from the beginning. And we acknowledge that we first approached the county and asked if we could do a conditional use rezone on this project. I think that would have been the clearest path forward for everyone involved. What that would allow is for us to apply for a solar project, apply for a rezone at the same time. The county is able to observe all of the information, decide if it's in their best interest. All of it gets reviewed in one swoop. What we have done here instead is applied for a rezone, a general use rezone. The limitation here is that we're not really able to discuss a project that all of our landowners want to do, including landowners in the surrounding area. We feel this project is beneficial to the county. We feel that parts of the staff finding are shaded the way they are because they weren't given the opportunity to review the project as a whole either. We do feel that, you know, if we're able to present some information here, it will at least, you know, pique everyone's interest in understanding if there are, opportunities for us to meet the land use criteria, because we think the project we're designing would meet the land use criteria. We think that it is consistent. So I'm going to dive into
Here's this right here.
all this. All right. So what I'm asking is you all to buckle up with me for a minute, and we can look over what we want to bring to the county and the opportunities it could provide. We're not asking for a decision on a project right now. We're not asking the commission to say, we approve the Philo Solar SUP tonight. What we're asking is you to consider if this is good for the county. We believe it is, and we're going to outline some reasons why. So,
Well, maybe.
one of these, is it the forward? Where do I point it?
Should be.
Hang on there. Figuring it out.
Go ahead, just touch control of it.
Okay, so you're gonna run it? Okay. First of all, you've all seen the rezone request, so everybody knows what parcels are under application here. Go ahead. A little bit of levity for everyone. This is our situation right now. There's a horse, that's a rezone. There's a cart. This is the project we want to bring to the county. The staff finding, we believe, is, it's limited in that it has to make assumptions about the cart right now. And we want to tell everybody about the cart and what we have to offer. So, let's get ahead. This is the general area of where this project will be located. What we're including right now is the total footprint of what would be in the Philo Solar project. So that's where it sits. It's in between Biscoe and Troy, closer to Biscoe. You can go ahead. This is the project footprint. That's 1,200 acres of land approximately in the entire project footprint. The shaded parcels there are the projects under rezone right now. 1,200 seems like a lot of land. That does look like a lot of land on, when you just look at the outline of these parcels. You can go ahead. But what we want to illuminate is that significant portions of this project footprint, that's the north side of the project along Highway 2427. This is called a development set. So that shows where we could be putting any arrays. What I want to illuminate is that if you combine every area that can be developed in this 1,200 acres right now, there's only 690 acres where we can put things. So that's where panels go. Anything in purple or orange in there is where we currently have arrays. What I also want to point out is that's a development set. That's just our best guess at the project right now. We want to hear from the county about areas where we could site things other than solar. We believe there's definitely opportunities for uses that are mutually beneficial to everyone. If you look up here, you see the chicken houses up in the northeast corner there. There's significant portions of our project footprint that would be under site control, that it's just it's going to be wooded land that we can't develop because of geographic constraints. We want to work with the county to see, are there opportunities to do parks there or do anything that would be beneficial to the county, trails, parks, apiaries. We'll outline a few of those as we go on. Another thing I want to point out is there were assumptions in the staff report about Highway 2427 and its nature as it relates to the scenic byway and how this project could affect it. If you look at our project footprint, this is just looking at the north side right now, there's very limited areas where the project could be visible. I know we're asking you to review a rezone and all the uses, but what we have in mind is a project that will not be visible from there. Again, we're asking the county to come to the table too and work through. We're willing to agree to conditions for this project that are above and beyond the SUP as well prior to submitting for an SUP. So if the county wants assurance that there are broader setbacks than the minimum 30-foot wooded area and 100-foot setback from the road, we're willing to meet those accommodations. You can go ahead. That's the south side. Again, you can see there are significant areas where the project just can't be developed in these areas. So these are areas that we would love to work with the county on exploring options. Really, it's like, we're asking you to come to us and tell us what you want in this area that would improve it, that would be in line with the land use plan. You can go ahead. And to reiterate, the point I was making there is project area boundaries, 1,200 acres. The buildable area, so that's the maximum area we could build, 764 acres. The area that we are proposing to develop to meet the megawatt requirement of this project, 690 acres. What I want to point out is that leaves 510 acres of land. That is all opportunity. I'm not saying every acre of that land can be something, but it leaves a lot of options. And if, you know, there's definitely chances for 100 acres there to be a park, to be trails, to be something beneficial to the county. So, you know. One of the primary benefits, this is the one we'll lead with, is, you know, at its most basic level, tax revenue. So this project is going to be bringing $4.4 million to the county tax base over the life of the project. Much of the land in this area is currently under an agricultural exemption. That means the current land tax rate on it is $8 to $9K a year. The land tax value after construction will be $150 to $190K a year. So that's the money the county is getting if this project is developed. Okay. Another boost is temporary boost to the local economy. So these projects take about a year to construct, and there's upwards of 300 employees and contractors who will be working in Biscoe, in Troy, in the county at large. They're going to be shopping in the area. They're going to be at restaurants. Logan, my associate, told me that a project recently that's under construction, they said a Bojangles nearby had to add a whole freezer because every day the workers were coming in to eat there. So there is a significant local boost in an economy like this when you bring 300 employees in to the area. Some kind of unique opportunities that make Montgomery County a great fit for a project like this is Sunrise Farm. I'm sure most of the commissioners are aware of it. I don't know if everybody in the community is, but they're a sheep farm that is also a solar farm, and it's just south of Biscoe. And we've been in talks with Joel Olson, who owns and operates Montgomery or the Sunrise Farms, and he's very interested, and we're very interested in operating a sheep farm on the site. So if that was done, that's another few jobs that we're contributing to the local economy. And it's also, you know, this land that will be under the development footprint will essentially be pasture land, large portions of it. So another opportunity that's very unique to Montgomery County. We can't pull this off everywhere. Some areas we go to a project, we're developers, we're not farmers. There's a great opportunity here because you have a farmer down the road who has experience with this and wants to work with us on it, and we want to work with him. Another opportunity that we've already been exploring is advancements with Montgomery Community College and the high school. Our sister company, Blue Ridge Power, who does all of the construction on our projects, they're operated out of Fayetteville, North Carolina. They've already done programs like this with the community college there, where we're essentially training electricians, we're training welders, and we're certifying them so that they can come work with us. They can work with anybody in the industry. And I want to point to, this is a huge industry. So there are opportunities everywhere for somebody who gets this certification to largely, they could stay in the county and live here and work on projects, not only here, but in the surrounding area. So it's an opportunity for training and career advancement for people where they can be making above the median income for the county. You know, just some kind of outside of the box ideas. There's, in our discussions with Montgomery Community College, there was a member there that let us know that the college, they operate some apiaries on site, and they would love the opportunity to run those kind of adjacent to the site. So all that land I was pointing to, that 510 acres, there are opportunities to set things like this up, and we're willing to pursue it. And like I said, we're willing to set conditions on this project and work with the county to assure that these are done. We're not here to just make promises today and then not fulfill on it. So if we want to set these conditions prior to an SUP, things like this, we're willing to do it. Okay. Community access, like I pointed out again, there's 510 acres. There are definitely, we could go back to that map if we wanted, but there are spots in there where we can explore trails, systems to run through the area. Not only, so it's not just locked up land that we're asking the county to sign on for. We're asking for them to partner with us to provide opportunities like this as well. And an important one, and this is a broad one, but energy independence. So anytime we're producing energy, I purposefully put up multiple forms of energy in this image because I want to make the point that we're not just out here saying it's solar and only solar. We happen to be a solar developer, and we believe that solar energy provides a unique form of energy in the market that is valuable to the energy portfolio of this country as a whole because we operate in a manner where all of the pricing is established up front. That provides a form of energy that is, I'd say, more resilient to commodity pricing. So we don't know what the price of coal will be 10 years from now. We don't know what the price of natural gas will be 10 years from now, but we know that the power purchase agreement we enter into on this project is going to be set, and it will be the price that is set throughout the life of this project. So we have listened to the county, and we have listened to community members in the surrounding area. We know there have been general concerns, and we want to address some of those. So I've already spoken to this a little bit, and this was in the staff report as well, and I know there's questions about it, and again, we weren't able to address those issues because of the process we've locked ourselves into, where we're looking at a rezone without being able to provide the staff with findings on the project specifically. So one of the things I want to point out, this is those areas that are shaded in this image, those are the rezone parcels. That's also, we've had a wetland delineation conducted on the project. And so those are wetlands and waters that are on the project footprint. What I want to point out is there's already significant limitations on areas we could even develop along that corridor. So anywhere with waters, it's too expensive for us to develop. And we don't want to develop those areas either because we're trying to, be the best steward of the land. And part of that means we don't go in and fill wetlands all over the site. In addition, we've got landowners. We've got landowners here tonight that will get up and speak to you shortly. They're at the table right now. They are here and they want this project to proceed. They actually don't care about rezoning their property to build anything that's also allowed in R2. I want to be clear about that. That's why we wanted to do a conditional use rezone from the beginning on this, because we want this to be all or nothing. But they're willing to work with the county right now. They're here. They're going to make statements to that shortly. But if the county wants additional buffers, we're willing to, basically we're asking you to tell us what you want right now to ensure that this project is in line with the land use plan. This is just a quick image kind of looking into this is looking north along Highway 2427 at one of the parcels that's under the rezone. So just kind of pointing out what the current conditions are. We intend to leave that in place. So when you're driving by, you should not be seeing this project. Again, that's looking down east towards Bisco. Again, that's a healthy wooded buffer, and you can see there's also a berm there. So this is like the perfect setting to not be visible. If the county wants us to not develop anywhere along that frontage so that this is harmonious with the scenic byway, we will enter into any agreement the county wants to ensure that. Go ahead. Another item that was pointed out in the staff report was that we have not provided a decommissioning plan at this point. Essentially, I think that's a bit of a miscommunication with the county on their process. Were we applying for, again, the conditional use rezone, which I think the ordinance is written with that in mind. If you look at the wording in the ordinance, it states that the decommissioning plan should be provided with the application for the project. So for a general use rezone, that's not a requirement in our read. However, we do these on pretty much every project we do. We do decommissioning plans, we do decommissioning bonds if the county wants it. So that's financial assurance we post that ensures that this project will be properly decommissioned upon either termination or end of project life. So I want to point out too that's we don't think that that's part of the requirement for a general use rezone. However, we are more than happy to sign that paperwork tonight and send it your way. So we don't want that hanging out there. But want to point to, I think that's been a general miscommunication with the county. One of the reasons pointed out in the inconsistency statement by the county was geographic location of rezoned parcels and potential facility. Again, we think, what we've outlined here is a project that is generally conducive with the land use plan. And I want to point out again, I want to reiterate this, I'm probably going to say it too many times, you're going to get sick of me hearing it, but I have landowners here tonight that want to work with the county right now, and we're willing to set conditions. We just want to keep this project alive. County sewer and water installed along Highway 2427. We've heard that from a few commissioners. We heard that from staff. Again, I want to point out that there's significant frontage that just can't be developed unless somebody's going to do fill of wetland and waters, and that's a pretty expensive process if anyone wants to do that. So I want to point out that, yeah, a lot of this project area footprint, it's not going to be receiving sewer, just because it's not developable land. It's not easily developed land. And again, we've got landowners here that want to work to ensure that the county's needs are met. So we're asking the county to tell us what they want with that, and the landowners are willing to accommodate any reasonable request. Okay. Direct community and abutter impact. So we've already begun outreach and addressed many concerns of community members. I know there are still community members, there are probably some here tonight, that have questions about the project. Like I started from the beginning, a lot of the way we've gone down this process and been guided to go down the process with the county has not allowed us to properly address concerns because we haven't had the opportunity to describe the project to the community in earnest. So we're agreeing to continue to work with the county and work with local abutters to seek feedback. So if there are any questions, concerns, if somebody wants us to expand a buffer that abuts their property, we're willing to work with them on things like that. We've already spoken to multiple community members and addressed those concerns. Some of them aren't here tonight because we've done that. Anybody that is here tonight that has concerns, we'll be following up with them to see what, to see how we can work with them. Okay, so in summary here, we're asking the county to, really step outside the box here, because this has been a rezone application. We wanted to do a conditional use rezone application. We think things are a little tied up. Again, cart ahead of horse situation. What we're asking the county to do is either approve a general rezone, but apply conditions to the rezone. You have the authority to do that. So if you want to apply conditions to a rezone tonight, we're willing to accommodate any rezones you want to, or any conditions you want to discuss with us. Another one would be approve a general rezone and begin discussion of conditions to apply to the facility prior to an SUP submittal. So what we would ask is the rezone is approved and we immediately begin discussion with staff. I want to get staff out and ride around at the site and look at it and tell us, point it out. Where do you want more buffers? Where do you want, parks to be? What are ideas that you have that would benefit the community? And we can establish those conditions prior to even us submitting an SUP with the county. So at the time we're submitting an SUP, we will have ironed out every one of those conditions. So that's essentially what we're asking. Any questions?
Would the project be viable without rezoning the 3 parcels that are?
No, unfortunately, those are, you can pull that image up again. I don't want to ask you to dig through that whole thing, but they're in the heart of the project. If you look at the parcels that are in there, it's just, we don't have enough land to do a project otherwise. Yeah, you look at that. And they're also the ones that are not in the rezone are pretty far apart from each other, as you can see.
I do have a couple of questions, unless you guys have a couple of questions. It's just clarity,
Yeah.
So, where you listed the annual tax listed, that was $100 and some thousand annually.
Mhm.
Is that the tax received after?
That's after the state required,
tax incentive
yes,
of 80%?
yes.
Of the
And I think we spoke to that in the planning
Yes.
session. We're locked in on that rate. All of
Yes,
us are.
that's
We
right.
don't get
All
to
of- that's
negotiate.
right. So, but just
Yeah.
so I'm knowing, because the
Yeah.
$4.4 million is over the
That's
life,
post,
which
yeah.
is 40 years of the
Mhm.
program.
Yes.
300 employees that it will add, what's the time frame? Because that's just with development, build of the project. How long does that take?
That takes about a year, anytime you all have had construction done on your house.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
it always takes longer, but approximately a year, you
So
can
about
expect
a
them to be
year.
out here.
And then after the build is done, what's left behind as an employee base for that area?
And that's where, unfortunately, and fortunately, these projects make great neighbors because of this, because there really doesn't need to be anyone out there on the site. So it's very minimal. This is also why we've approached the county, the Montgomery Community College, why we're approaching the high schools, because we don't want to just develop a project and assume that that's good, So we want to be contributing to the workforce in this county. And a way we can contribute is to provide training. This is well-centered, I'd say, geographically, to provide opportunities for people to get trained and be able to work in the region. South Carolina, North Carolina are major,
Great paying job.
yeah,
Yeah.
major areas for solar, and you could be working anywhere in the region with a job like
And
that.
again, for our case tonight, this project is not what we're weighing it on, right? But those are things, so I had questions. But with MCC, since you brought that up, knowing that we have Cabin Creek already in place, would that still be a partnership that you could do with MCC? Because Cabin Creek Solar,
We
which
can
is,
definitely be exploring that, yes.
yeah, right, because that's those existing. Okay, just so since those are
And we
things
want to
that-
partner with the county.
I know,
on,
yes. So I'm just-
anything and everything. We want this to be more than just a solar
Yes.
project.
There were just little things that I know we have another project, so I was wondering how that would work with the college.
And when you reference decommissioning bond, is there something similar on Cabin Creek now that could be?
I can't speak to that one. I didn't develop that project. A lot of times, we're always happy to provide those. A lot of times the county has to ask for it. So, I'm queuing you off. You can ask for one, and we will provide one. So,
Okay.
Any other questions before we hear from others that would like to speak tonight? Everybody good? Thank you so much
All
for
right,
being
thank
here
you.
tonight. Very thorough. All right, who else would be here to speak on behalf of the property owners? Yes, come forward. You'll have to state your name and your address. Mr. Miller, but you got to state it for the record, so go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight on behalf of Jordan 2 LLC. My name is Chip Miller. I'm the Timberlands Manager for Jordan 2. My address is 106 Short Street, Mount Gilead, North Carolina.
Thank you.
Okay. First, I want to say we're very concerned and disappointed to see the Planning Board not recommend the rezoning of our 69.74 acre parcel from R1 to R2 zoning at their last meeting on October 24, 2022. On behalf of Jordan 2 LLC, we respectfully asked you as our county commissioners to vote in a favorable manner to allow the rezoning request from R1 to R2 as presented by Philo Solar LLC for the following reasons. Number one, we see this opportunity as a way to diversify our business plan to provide a stable cash flow revenue stream from this particular parcel of land. As you know, our land ownership is primarily for forestry and to grow a sustainable resource for our mills. However, we do like to utilize opportunities for higher and better uses if possible. Even with our ownership pattern across Montgomery County and surrounding counties, it is very rare, and I like to repeat, very rare for this opportunity or this type of opportunity to be available to us or any other landowner for that matter due to strict cost-effective conditions that have to be met, such as proximity to power transmission lines, topography, parcel size, and low percentage of wetland areas, to name just a few. Since these opportunities are so rare, it is a part of our business plan to utilize a small percentage of our ownership base for this diversification. Number two, approximately 158 acres of our 226 acre parcel is already zoned R2, adjoining the 69.7 acre requested to be rezoned R2. It would be more consistent to match the 69.7 acre parcel zone R1 to R2 zoning that already exists with the majority of our parcel. Number 3, as you're aware, our land ownership in the county is taxed according to forest use assessment value. If this solar project is approved, this new land use tax assessment will be much higher than what the county is receiving now from our current use valuation. This new valuation will certainly generate more tax revenue for the county and seems to be a win-win scenario for both the county and the landowner. Number 4, we believe the R2 zoning for our entire parcel acreage of 229 acres is compatible with the Montgomery County Land Use Plan and does not cause any harm to adjoining neighbors or the community. In summary, we hope the board will take favorable action on this rezoning request and maintain our rights as a private landowner in Montgomery County to pursue this business opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll pass those out. Thank you, Chip. All right. Anybody else? Someone, looks like someone's coming forward. So let this person come forward and then you can come forward who just raised your hand back there. I couldn't see. Yes, sir. If you will state your name and address, please.
Yes, good evening. How you doing? My name's Todd Shad. I
Okay.
live at 115 Sunset Court, Mount Gilead. And I would be the other portion of the property that needs to be, or that we're requesting for R2, or R1 to R2. I know you asked the question, can you do it without rezoning that? We would be the neighbor to the Jordan 2 LLC. We're in the proximity or adjoining the Duke substation. And like Chip mentioned, it is kind of a rare opportunity to have this come up where you have a substation and you've got a main transmission line. It's all compatible for this to all work. You can't just do it anywhere, say, well, we don't want it here, maybe go up the road and do it up there. Well, you have to be able to get that power to the main grid and then to the transmission line at an economical price. So paying taxes all these years on a pretty good bit of property, it is nice that something finally comes. But when the planning board did say last time that they didn't like this idea, they would rather see homes. It's hard to say for such a big portion of property that homes are going to come to Bisco now, tomorrow. It could be 10 years, 20, 30 years. So I think it's a good opportunity here for us, for everybody. And I think it's something you should really consider. And I'd appreciate it if you do that.
Absolutely.
So.
Thank you for your
All right.
time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, whoever raised their hand just a minute ago, if you'll come on forward. Yes. How are you this evening? If you will state your name and your address, please.
Margaret Brock, and I live at 1520 Highway 2427, East Bisco.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
I have a grievance, really. I'm not ready to rezone yet. We've been living there for 51 years, and we kind of like it the way it is right now. But if you saw on the map, we're talking about a massive amount of land. And this is going to have a massive amount of chain link fences. It goes from 2427 to County Troy Road. That is a lot of blockage. And my grievance is pretty much, I'm speaking for our wildlife. The wildlife will not have no room to roam. And also displacement of our wildlife area. There may not be a law against, what a person does to their own property. I mean, I can't tell nobody what to do to their own property. But when it comes to our wildlife, I think we all, as residents, need to be concerned about that. And due to the chain link fences, sure, a deer can jump over a 7-foot fence. But that baby can't. There's a law that says that there's a wildlife law that says if a deer is in water, that a man cannot take that deer's life because he cannot defend himself. With miles and miles and miles of chain link fences, a deer cannot defend themselves against their own predators. When that deer runs into a chain link fence, he's blocked. Sure, he can jump over that fence 7 foot, but that baby can't. And sometimes, if you ever seen any photos of like a 6-point buck get his antlers caught in those chain link fences, it takes man to come out there and cut that horns off to get him out. And there's not going to be a man out there because really, I'm going to be honest with you, how many of us have ever went down and saw anybody working these fields? There's nobody working these fields. Yeah, I've never seen a man in a solar field. They're not employed. So it's not going to be bringing in the employment in this county that we think it's going to be bringing in because you don't see nobody working them. And I always feel like if you see a man working, then that's convincing enough that somebody's been employed. The request for the rezoning is pretty much for, from what I can hear so far, is for the solar, it follows solar alone. But I just heard some more that is interested in doing it for other reasons. And it is also, what my concern is an expansion of the existing the existing business that's there. It's called the D.H. Griffin Junkyard. If it zones to a zone 2, then that junkyard will have a reason. They have all the legal right to expand. I don't think BOCC needs no more of that. Do we really need it? Do we need more junkyard in the BOCC area? And I live where I can't view the junkyard, but I live across the road and the junkyard is in front of me. From my house all the way through to a mile and a half, well, not even a mile and a half from my house, a little over a mile from my house, there's a sign that says, "Welcome to the Huaris." If you come this way, from BOCC this way, you'll see it sign. And that is another thing that I have to, visual impact of infrastructure will have on our tourists coming into and out of the state. And we got people from everywhere coming into this county. Everybody. I mean, everybody comes to Baden Lake and Lake Tillery for the water sports, going to the Huari Mountains for the hiking and the canoeing and hiking and horseback riding. I can just go on and on, but I'm not going to do that because I think I got the picture here. I think I've got the picture pretty well here. But the existence of the D.H. Griffin Junkyard has really been my problem. And if they expand, they can be in the front yards of some of the other residents around that place. I know there's 4 residents. If he would expand that business, and he will have the legal right to do that if we go to a zone 2. And we didn't move when I built my house. I didn't build my house there because I wanted to view a junkyard. If he expanded to me, I can't see the junkyard from my house, but if he has the right to expand, then I would be looking at a junkyard in front of my house. Now, who would want that? Nobody. I don't know if anybody wants a junkyard in their face, because that's not what I moved in there for 51 years ago. And it could also be an open book for more of the same to come in. If he can visualize the junkyard, and then I don't know of any other businesses that's willing to come in, because this thing is making such an impact. So much infrastructure is going to be using up all of this land, and I don't really know of any other any other companies or any kind of business is going to be able to come in, because they've used it all up in that area. I'm not talking about the whole thing. But this is the beautification of our highways. When people come into BOCC, we don't want them to view it as bad all the infrastructure, people wants to get away from that. They come here for the UR, for what they can get from the UR Mountains, from the sportings and the hiking without seeing all that stuff. They wouldn't be on top of a mountain hiking without seeing all that infrastructure under them. That's what they're trying to get away from. And people from Greensboro, I've talked to people in Greensboro, they have been down, I know where Troy's at. We go down there hiking and camping. I want them to continue to do that without seeing all this infrastructure. And the beautification of our highways is quite important to us. And that is my grievance, and I think one of the grievances is when you're there and you've had miles and miles and miles of forest behind you, and all of a sudden 200 foot from your property line is a fence. We get the feel that we are boxed in, that we can't go but just one way, and that's toward the highway. And that's where the deer and all the wildlife don't have another place to go. It's by way of road. And I certainly hope that our wildlife do not jump out in front of one of them little Teslas, because I'm really afraid that one of those batteries is going to blow. So you get my message on that. But just for record, I heard that these solar units do not operate, now correct me if I'm wrong, at 35%. Only when it got the sun shining. It didn't operate at all probably today. And in California, I heard that the charging stations is running out of electricity. So when you go charge a battery, you'll be standing there charging a battery, it runs out. So somebody's going to have to dump a barrel of diesel fuel in a generator to generate it, to get it stolen again. So I don't really see at this point any reason to have electric cars running off of solar panels. I just don't think it's not. And why don't they just put the diesel fuel in the car and go? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brock. Thank you very much for being here. May I first ask if we have any other property owners before you speak? Real
Okay,
quick?
we
you
do
mind?
have one other, in fact, Mr.
So that we can just get that, and then you
That
can
would be
come,
fine,
since
thank you.
we've got a few
I
property
was just
owners.
addressing the previous comments, but
Well,
I'll be
it's,
glad to
yeah,
defer
it's
to
just,
Mr.
if we could just hear from all the
That's fine.
property owners, and then we can.
Trust me, I'll make it brief.
Thank you, sir. How are you?
Thank all of you for being here tonight, and I know the night's getting longer. Nobody wants to be here, and I certainly don't like public speaking. I have got something I'm going to submit
Thank you.
for the record for you guys. But I think the biggest thing, I'm Charles Bennett.
Mr.
I'm from 165 North Bethesda Road in Southern Pines.
Uh-huh.
My family is from this area on my mother's side. I think it'll be in the letter for you guys to read. I wouldn't be a part of this project if I didn't feel like it was going to be an improvement to Montgomery County. And I'm convinced in my dealings with them that would be their intention. And I think that's what they've made clear tonight. They look at it as a win-win situation, and that's the way they want to approach it. I've heard a lot of legitimate things on both sides. One question I would have for y'all is, I'm still a little fuzzy on how the tax works on a solar farm. I guess a lot of it goes back to the state, is that correct?
You would have to, those would be questions that county manager would answer outside
Okay.
of this forum.
If it does, I would be interested in knowing what the process is for the county to recoup some of that. There's got to be grant money or something along those lines. But that's really I'm already zoned to R2, but it's still part of this project. So again, that I appreciate your time, and
Thank you.
I'll submit this for the record.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. How are you, Mr. Poole?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good. State your name and address, please.
All right. My name is Earl Poole. I live at 106 Foxton Road here in Troy. And we own property that adjoins the Jordan property. I don't remember the exact number.
That's okay.
I just want to say a couple of concerns. Again, being from Montgomery County since 1966 or 67, it's always exciting to hear about developments. I don't want to be, you've got some serious things to weigh, and just a few things for you to think about. Number one, the first thing of us that are on the border that are not involved is what's it going to do as far as our property values. And I've heard some good things in just listening to his presentation, but how far back from the property lines are the solar panels going to be? I gather there's going to be some reflection from those. Will there be a tree line border, something other than a chain link, something to hide the chain link fence perhaps? Probably the thing that hits me the most is what's the plan for 20 to 30 years down the road, which may not concern me at all, but eventually the solar panels will wear out. Will they leach metals into the soil? Anything that rain hits, it eventually will get into. So what is the process going to be as far as maintaining and keeping those in good shape? And what are we going to do with the old ones? We don't, if they're stacked on the property next to me and the rain hits them and they get into the soil, then we're all in trouble. And so we haven't had a net gain. So that's basically the thing I'd like for you to consider as you go forth with this. I wish I had some great wisdom to give you. All I'm giving you is asking you to consider some things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Poole.
There are no more.
Pardon?
Okay, if there are no more.
Let me, I'm not sure, is there any other residents, property owners that would like to speak tonight? Then, Frankie, are we good to open back up to?
Anybody wants to speak?
Go right ahead. Yes, sir. I don't know who all represents who, so we got all kinds of things here. Come forward.
Chairman Dawson, I am Tom Terrell.
Yes, Tom.
I am the attorney for Philo Solar, and that's why I'm here tonight. I wasn't going to present, except that there were some comments made that I do think need to be addressed. But I will first introduce myself as a former attorney for Montgomery County. I've represented the county as outside counsel on at least 3 matters. I'm trying to remember how many. But the one that was most notable was I represented the county in the fight against the state on the issue, and Union County on the issue of the interbasin transfer. And it was quite an honor to have represented the county on that. I also, though, during the time I was representing Montgomery County, I was chairing the drafting committee for what became known as Chapter 160D. It was a complete rewriting of all our zoning and land use laws. I can assure you that there's not a single word in that statute, it's a collection of statutes, about wildlife as a consideration for land use. Land use is about people and people that inhabit the land. Now, having said that, my experience in solar is very broad. It goes across 4 states. I have been in numerous solar farms. I have represented many of the companies. You just don't see deer inside these facilities. There will be, in order to meet the National Electric Code, there will be a 7-foot high fence that goes around the site. Deer will have been pushed out by that time, but if they can get in, they can also then get out. Now, Pinegate, that owns Philo Solar, is the only company I'm aware of that constructs what are called wildlife permeable fences. They designed it with the North Carolina Wildlife Federation so that anything from the size of a small fox down can get through. So those issues won't be there. But I would also like to add, as Mr. McLaughlin stood here and said, we will work with you. We will work with neighbors. If you raised a concern, give us a chance to address it. This company has also done what are called wildlife corridors. And if that is your concern, there is probably a way to construct wildlife corridors through this project. So I want to leave that with you and thank you for your time.
Perfect. Now, we'll share whoever else is, but are you a homeowner or a resident? Yes, please come forward.
I was going to the restroom.
That's okay. That has to happen. If you will state your name and your address, please.
My name is Rebecca Thompson, and it was me and my husband own 1684. He also rents 1678, and we just acquired 1692 as well on a 9-acre tract right there. We're across from Chicken Farm Road at that substation. Now, at first, I didn't have any problems much with this, except for if in clearing, they would be burning, and I have COPD and allergic to poison oak, and I didn't want that to get in my lungs. Well, we addressed that, but since then, I've done a lot more research. And let me see if I can read my own notes here. But my main concern is with, the toxins that could be into, where I read that, and anybody can read this on Google if you look it up and look under toxins, and it says that it has lead and cadmium, if that's how you say it. But and over time, if there is leaking, it can get into the groundwater and soil. So that's my main concern, is how it's going to affect from the dust, the pollution, how it's going to, get into the air, water, and the soil. And we also have a pond in front of our house with all types of wildlife. We've been at our property for close to 40 years. And, we've been blessed, I look at it like to be caretakers of this property, and we've really tried to take care of things and not, recycle everything, make sure that we don't contaminate, our water and everything like that. But I'm just, really concerned about that. Now, I'm in my 60s. I'm not going to tell you exactly what age that is, and get close to my birthday too at that. But I could be blessed enough to live another 20 years, just per se, to see how, long that this might, affect us down the road. Because I don't even know if these solar panels have been around for 20 years. To see what damage that might be done, okay? I would hate to know that we've done this, and then 20 years down the road, we end up in the same kind of shape that they are with Paris Island, with the contamination of the water. Now, is making money in somebody's pocket worth that? If you're going to turn around and get sued later for the damage that it's done.
Thank you for your time, Ms. Thompson, for being here. We appreciate it. So I think in essence of time, yes, come forward.
Thank you. My name is Robert Carpenter. I'm representing Ms. Sharon Yao, who's a neighboring property owner.
Okay.
And I appreciate your coming on time. I'll try to be brief. But I'm here from Asheville on her behalf to talk about her neighboring property. She's a native of Montgomery County. She grew up here. She was born here, went to high school here. She was raised by a house built by her mother, Mary, in 1980. She currently lives in that house. She lives there now. She came back to oversee her mother while she was sick, and she currently resides there. And her property, there's actually 3 tracts of property, but her property is smack dab in the middle of where they're looking to put the solar farm. So she has a strong interest in what the county does tonight, what it does in the future, and the solar farm in general. And what Mr. Burrows, I think, forgot to mention, or maybe he did mention, but they've filed a protest petition against the solar farm. They had to do so last week just to meet the time deadline to get that in before the hearing today. Talking to Mr. Burrows, he seems to believe that that was filed correctly and is sufficient. And under the ordinance, that would require a 4/5 vote tonight for the rezoning. So do know that's out there. Ms. Yao, she appreciates the need for solar in the global environment, the need for solar for many reasons. And we're working with the Follow Solar now to try to come to some kind of agreement on this. And it's interesting, they use the cart and the horse analogy because it seems like they're putting the cart before the horse a little bit here. We're the ones that reached out to them to talk about the project, and they promised to give us an offer of some kind of resolution of our concerns by October 28th. Was the date they promised that by. The planning board meeting was on October 24th. They did not make a comment at that planning board meeting because they were working in good faith with Violet Solar to come to some kind of agreement. Well, needless to say, the offer from them didn't come until well after October 28th. In fact, it came after the protest petition last Thursday night. So while we're still in negotiations with them for some kind of agreement, those negotiations need a little bit of time to go through and to come to some kind of resolution. And so it makes a lot of sense to me, to my client, for this board to push pause on rezoning at this point, to allow us time to talk about these issues with Violet Solar. I wish they had come to us sooner, but I think they potentially put the cart before the horse and filing for this rezoning when they did and having this hearing tonight. So our request tonight is that you push this off at least till the next meeting so we can have some conversations with Violet Solar, try to get on board with them, and hopefully in a collaborative way. And I hear them tonight talking about collaboration. So I think it makes a lot of sense for everybody just to push pause tonight and let us continue talking to them. And hopefully at some point we could withdraw the protest petition, but as it is right now, that is out there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And what was your last name again? Carpenter?
Robert Carpenter.
Carpenter. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Carpenter. I appreciate it. I think we have heard. Yes, are you? Come on up, Mayor.
Craig Jones, 114 Charles Street, Troy, North Carolina. Folks, I came here tonight to see Mr. Russell. I didn't come here for this at all. I didn't even know this was happening. Glad I stayed. I just want to point out something, and I want to say this first. I have utmost respect for Jordan Lumber Company. Mr. Jordan and that whole crowd has been great for this county. And if they think this is a good thing, I probably need to ask some questions. But one concern I've got is we've got, this bypass I think was built primarily to get people from Charlotte to I-73. Mm-hmm. I-73 and 2427, probably the busiest intersection in this county. But maybe 211, but my concern is, as a citizen here, and I am speaking for myself, not the town of Troy, I want to make that clear. You drive for future development, and this is not good for the homeowners either, because I know they don't want to sell their property and they don't want manufacturing facilities there. But my concern is, our county is all national forest on one side. Mm-hmm. There's never going to be any industry on the lake because that's home. We have railroad, we have an interstate highway in Biscoe, which can potentially bring in industry. We need industry, we need jobs here. Mm-hmm. You cross the highway, you go into a Carthage, you look, solar farm. You turn to go to Candor on 73, you look on both sides of the road, it's solar farm. Nothing wrong with a solar farm. I'm a proponent of solar energy, but this gentleman says 300 people, yeah, for a year. But after that thing don't eat. Nobody there eats. He already said that there's nobody there working. We need places here for our people to work and for people and young people who want to stay here and come back to this county. And my concern is that and I know the homeowners are not going to agree with me, and I don't blame them if I owned a home out there either. So let me say that. But you're not going to have anywhere to build any manufacturing facilities as these solar farms are built. I mean, you're destroying the most perfect place to put industry in this county. And I just wanted to go on record saying that, and I think that's something y'all need to consider. But I do not have, any problem with a solar farm, but I just think we've got enough of them here. And if the solar energy that was generated here was gonna be used here to keep our rates down, I might think about it a little bit different, but that ain't the case.
That's right.
That ain't the case. It's like the landfill. I did not agree with the landfill when it was here, and I don't want to get off on a tangent here. But one day, that thing's gonna fill up. And we're gonna have to find a way to make money to take care of what we're gonna lose that place is bringing to us every year from tax, to keep our taxes down. That thing, if it weren't there, I don't know what our tax rate would be. So that's my concern. I'm not against anybody. I just think that's things for you guys to consider.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate it.
Madam Chairman, I need to correct something.
Well, and I think here's the thing why I want to press pause. Tonight, this hearing is for a rezoning.
It is.
Not for special use permit. It's not for any of those things. So we're putting all of these things around this project.
I'm addressing the rezoning.
Okay, then.
There is no such thing as a protest petition. I am aware that your ordinance says there is, but I think Mr. Manus will agree that the protest petition was abolished by the General Assembly in 2015. I was one of the people there. In fact, I was one of the primary spokespeople for abolishing it on a property rights basis. So it cannot have any effect on a vote taken by this commission.
Correct.
Want to make sure that was clear.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, guys, there has been a lot taken in. Is there any specific questions that you have? If right at this moment, if you do not have question, because there's a lot, and knowing that there's been conversation of can we do a special use rezoning, there's a number of things that those aren't on our necessarily plate for us to look at this evening. I would recommend that we make a motion to continue this public hearing. So if we can continue it until our December meeting, that would be a recommendation I would make, but that would need to be, if that is a motion you would be willing to make, so we can reopen, we'll just continue this public hearing until December.
I agree. I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing until the December meeting.
All right. So Commissioner Shaw made the motion, Commissioner Robinson made the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So if we could make note, please, that this public hearing will be continued until in our meeting in December because of how we swear in, blah, 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 all the things. The December meeting is always the first Monday in December, so that date is December the 5th, and that would be a Monday, so make note of that. Thank you to everybody that spoke this evening. We appreciate hearing from all of you for that public hearing. We're not done with our meeting yet, but we're done with that part. All right. As the room exits, Frankie.
The next one's the most exciting.
I know. The next one is the most exciting.
Sorry.
It's forward progress. So
Couldn't leave that opportunity.
and everybody left. They're not even gonna get to hear it all. All right. Mr. Manus, you want to get started and
Sure.
people will continue to.
And I promise
Let
that
me-
the,
Ray, can we get that done?
I promise that the mayor and I did not conspire for him to lead us into this next item.
I know this next one is exciting.
So tonight we have an additional public hearing requirement, and this one is for, as the mayor indicated, an attempt to attract industry and jobs and tax base to our community. We are fortunate enough to have a great economic development director here that should take all the credit for anything positive that happens from this hearing tonight. But we are fortunate to have been selected as a finalist for a project known as Project Skipper for a site that we have under control in the Candor area. This is the same site where we have successfully lobbied, applied, and received site development grant funding from 2 different grantors. So Project Skipper is, of course, the code name for a company, and that's what it goes by until they announce where they've selected, and usually that comes from a governor or someone at the state level. Nonetheless, it's a project that proposes an $85 million capital investment, 133 full-time jobs with annual average annual salaries of just north of $47,000. Obviously, this is a positive impact to our local economy if we were so fortunate enough to land the industry. As part of the requirements of North Carolina general statutes, we must conduct a public hearing prior to considering any expenditures for economic development purposes, particularly those for economic development inducements, such as incentives. The county currently has an economic development incentive policy. The request tonight would be to allow us to enter into an agreement should we be selected by Project Skipper, enter into an agreement pursuant to our policy, which is in effect a tax rebate after taxes are paid and the investment is made. The ask is I would further that ask to say that we would take the site development monies and put towards the site development of this site that happens to be the site that Project Skipper is looking at and the same site we have tried to forward the development on. Without further ado, we do need to have a public hearing to receive any public comment before we can move forward with considering whether or not to extend economic development incentive to Project Skipper.
Absolutely. So
and I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys may have of me or Savannah.
So, do you guys have any questions from staff regarding this? Or I will open it up to anyone that may have public comment. Any questions?
I'm clear on it.
Frankie, or Savannah? So I would like to open up if there's anyone here to speak in a public comment period within this public hearing. Please come forward. So it doesn't look that we do. So I will need a motion to close this public comment period for this hearing.
I make a motion, we close public comment period.
Commissioner Hassel with a motion, a second.
Second.
Commissioner Little, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the public comment period is closed. So with no question or no discussion, it would require that we make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing this economic development incentive. So anyone that would make that motion this evening?
I make a motion, we approve.
So a motion made by Commissioner Hassel to approve the resolution authorizing the economic development incentive to Project Skipper. I need a second.
I second.
Commissioner Robinson, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So, Mr. Manus, we are good to move forward with that. Super exciting. We're going to keep our fingers crossed. Keep our fingers crossed. That would be amazing to land that. That would be awesome. So that does close out all public hearings that we had on the agenda this evening. So, Mr. Manager, I'm going to turn it over to you. There are a couple of things, or at least one thing, within your county manager's reports this evening.
One thing with 2 items that we'll try to wrap together. I have 2 requests, but I'll try to, like I said, summarize those together. The first was to adopt a resolution accepting a merger and regionalization feasibility grant. If we'll rewind several months ago, the board authorized staff to apply for funding from the state to conduct a merger and regionalization study of our water system, since we are the only source of, we're the only entity that produces water in Montgomery County. Having an alternative source is obviously very, very important. we were fortunate enough to be awarded those funds, and now we have to accept those funds and account for those funds. So those are the two things I'm asking tonight, that we accept those funds and that we adopt a grant project ordinance to account for the activity in use of those funds. So there's a resolution accepting the merger and regionalization feasibility grant from the Department of Environmental Quality and a project ordinance there, and I would ask for approval.
Any questions for Mr. Manus concerning this? I think we all knew this was coming down the road eventually, so now it is upon us. So we would need a motion to approve that mouthful that he just said, that he could state again if you need him to state that.
I would make a motion to adopt the resolution accepting a merger and regionalization feasibility grant from the Department of Environmental Quality and adopt the grant project ordinance.
Well, look at you, you did a good job with that. Thank you. We have a motion out of Commissioner Shaw. I need a second.
Second.
Second out of Commissioner Hassel. All in favor? Aye, none opposed. So, Mr. Manager, that is approved.
Thank you. I don't have anything else that requires action tonight.
Guys, anything that you saw within any of the county reports that you had any questions for? Frankie may or may not be able to answer them, but he could get answers.
I'll give it a
if
good
there was-
shot.
Yeah, if there was anything that you had questions about. No? It was nice in the reports this go around, since we were dealing with veterans this evening, to see our what is Gracie's title?
Veteran Service.
Services Officer.
Service, I couldn't come up with the word, VSO, Veteran Services, to have that report included in our packet, so to see what, the good work that she's doing, so that's great to have that as part of our meeting packet. So anything else anybody has before we adjourn this meeting?
I think, I know that we had received the full proposal that was gonna be submitted to Vital Strategies from First Health. We had that at the meeting, and then they also had forwarded the Excel spreadsheet, which was the entire budget. I forwarded that to Misty, and I think
Okay.
that'll come out here shortly. But Vital Strategies has that proposal as far as whether or not they're going to support matching funds. We should know, I think they said December 19th would be the latest, so it might not be available and ready for review before our next meeting, but otherwise, that process is still moving forward. The final say on that one is still always resides with us, but that's one thing that occurred today as far as I did get more information from them. But,
Good.
other than that, yeah.
That's great.
11 on 11 flag, championships,
yeah?
undefeated champions.
That was great.
Tackle 2, undefeated champions this year, so we did it soundly last Saturday, 28-0, 11 on 11, and 26-0, tackle 2, so.
That was
It was a big day for our youth. We had
Yeah.
a great time out there at the high school.
Youth football, that's awesome. Thank you very much, and thank you for all your efforts in that program too, working with those kids. I would like to, before we leave, is first of all recognize Miss Little, because Commissioner Little, in the time, I don't know how many months you've been here, it seems like forever since I've been here, but I just want to recognize that you have been an asset to this board. She has had a voice, she has had input, she's not only taken into consideration people that live within her community, but also across this county, and has come prepared. I mean, has done her due diligence to dig in and know and have a voice about the things that we're dealing with, and brought a wealth of insight and history from the Department of Social Services, all over of areas that she, through her years of service in this county, has been able to bring to the plate. So I, on behalf of Dana Dawson personally, but also the chair of this board, I would like to say thank you. It has been much appreciated.
Thank you.
You will have some hard shoes to fill. So thank you very much. We appreciate all that you've done.
It's been an experience, and I've loved it.
Well, hopefully you'll still be here next month. It'll be a
I'll
swap
still
out,
be
but I wanted to be
around.
able to say that tonight, to
Well, thank
say
you. I appreciate it.
we so appreciate all that you have contributed, and to the progress, because that is the goal of this board, is how are we
Move forward.
moving forward, and we so appreciate that. So if nobody else has anything to say this evening, I do need a motion to adjourn this meeting. We will, from Commissioner Robinson to adjourn, that's the motion. I need a second.
Second.
Commissioner Little, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you guys all, thank you very much. Kate, you've been sitting over there eating candy and I ain't been able to because I had to talk. I need some candy.
I've eaten my share too.
All right, would you guys all like, they gave enough of each one of these, the first from Chip Miller. Do you want that? Do you want a copy of these too?
Thank you.
John, do you want a copy of this that Mr. Miller left?
Yeah, it is good.
Mr. Bennett, his is only one copy, so I'll have to get them to make copies so that we have it.